that alone just like kind of set the tone in that day. And again, I'm sure it was so unintentional. Like maybe they were trying to welcome me in, but just then I was like, okay, so my place is down here and you're talking to me from up here. So it was just a super unfortunate.
First of all, it's like, learn his name. Like if you know there's a call up and you know there's a new girl coming in, I don't know. I just think like, why would no one reach out to you before and be like, hey, are you coming up to the game? Do you want to come sit with us? Because obviously I'm sure you were nervous to like go there up to the NHL for the first time and not know any of those girls.
There's so many ways that they could have rephrased. You know what I mean? Like I know sometimes stuff just slips out. You say it, but you could have even if I had no idea who you were, how I would have approached, I would have said, oh, I don't recognize you. Like, are you dating someone, you know, who's here, right?
You're listening to Breaking the Ice, a podcast and community created for wives and girlfriends of professional hockey players, but since has turned into so much more. Stories shared by women around the globe who come together for a sense of connection and community. You may be in the sports industry, a hockey parent, an athlete, or a person who just enjoys podcasts. But I can promise you'll be inspired by these women every single day, while we evolve through the tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts for all things hockey. And guess what? So much more. For women, by women, but especially for a hockey community. So lace them up and tune in for a new episode every Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Good morning.
That was a shit. Like, I think I said to Scott, I was like, yeah, I'm recording at 9:30, but I think like he knew that the Emma call was at 10. So like he comes in from I woke up early to work out so that he could like take the dogs and do all that stuff. So then I come in, have breakfast. He's just upstairs. Like he's got the blender on, he's got the pots and pans. Like the kitchen is like my favorite place because it's nice that even if the dogs play, they're just right there. So they're not going to whine or anything. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go in the basement because the upstairs gets so hot, obviously. So I'm like, I'm going to sit in the freezing cold basement, but I've got my coffee and I've got my slippers on. So,
oh, so cozy. Look what I'm working with right now.
Yeah. But you know what? The acoustics in there are probably pretty good.
It's like literally white walls. I mean, this is like our extra bedroom here. I'm not even going to bother doing anything. It's like if someone comes out here, this is where they'll stay, but it's just away from like the noise of upstairs.
I know. I just saw one of the girls I know, her husband plays in Nashville and they've been there for a few years. And I was just thinking, I was like, I'm so jealous of people that have like a few-year contract that can just like buy a house and go back to it. And it feels like homey because we're the same. Like every year it's just like get a condo, hang nothing on the walls. And I'm like, you know what? Like, hopefully once we figure out where we are this year, I definitely do want to do the same as you, make it a little bit homier because I'm so like, especially having a house now, I'm like, I don't want to leave.
I know. It already feels so much better that I did that. Like, it's just crazy. Like I can come home and wake up and kind of feel like I'm in my space with some things that I like. Cause before I literally never did it ever. It's easy to not want to spend money on that stuff because you're not going to keep it.
Yeah.
So it feels like a waste, but then if you look at it from like a mental perspective, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. And we're there the majority of the year. Like this is the minority of the year.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. As I was waiting for you, I was looking at myself in this Zoom thing and I'm like, why can I not be a cute bun person?
And there's like all these like tutorials and stuff on TikTok of like how to do like really easy cute buns. And then there's like people that comment, they're like, this is still too fast. The girls will like I don't know if you've seen them. They're like slow down what they do with their hands to get the bun like in a cute shape. And it's the same thing. Like I'll be trying to do something in my hair and I'm like, how the fuck do they do that?
I know. And I look at all these people that are just out and about with buns on top of their head and they always look so cute. And then I just look like a homeless person. Like, I'm like, why? Like, it's just, I was like trying to fix it. I'm like, just forget it. I don't even care.
My hair's so greasy, but that's why I love that these headbands are in because you can't even tell. Like the bottom of my hair is greasy, so I just like slick it back.
Are you a fan of Zoom calls?
Honestly, I haven't even really like done many. Like I've done like a lot of consults for the wedding, but like I've pretty much like I mean I haven't really had to do any obviously for work because I'm waiting on my green card and I'm just nannying.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for like wedding calls and stuff. I don't really care, but like,
I always do Zoom audio, which I feel like it's way better to do video, especially when there's like 2 or 3 people. Plus, I'm like totally comfortable with you that I do not care to do like a Zoom video, but I feel like it's so awkward with some people to do it because it's like you've never met face to face, and then you're just like, hi, like, and like I can see myself talking in the corner, and I'm just like, can I just like cover myself so I don't have to like see my.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. This is the first time we've even spoke face to face.
I know. And I also find that I'm always like on my computer, just like sitting. I'm like, so I have to like.
Maybe we'll be better now. I'm on the couch.
Be comfortable.
Stools from our apartments that we usually, and they're like really nice, comfy bar stools. And Scott set them up. We've never sat at them yet. So I was like, oh, I'll just sit like at the bar, because then at least there's like a table to put the computer on. And our bar is very high up here. It's like a very high top, and our stools are like lower, I guess. So I like sat
So it's like a head.
like here on the screen. But Scott did say he was going to be done in like 20 minutes. So I'm like, good. I think for the Emma episode, I'll move upstairs because
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I just like being able to like sit, I don't know, even like my elbows and stuff. I'm like, what do I do with my hands right now?
I know. I always am like that too. I was saying to Charlie too, like he was pushing the stroller today. We went out to breakfast, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do with my hands if I'm not pressing the stroller at this point. Like, I'm like, what do I do? I'm just standing there. I did an episode with Lane. I don't know if you listened to that one about friendships. And it was honestly like one of the most downloaded episodes that I've done. And I loved it because this is something that people like literally don't talk about. Like you might talk about this with a friend, just about friendships in general, but like I learned that so many of us feel the same way about friendship turnoffs and like what's a friendship turn on, like what attracts you to your friend, what makes them stick around, and especially in this lifestyle. So I'm excited to just touch on this today in our intro.
Those questions that I wrote, that was literally from like another, like, I just like Googled like questions on friendship, and then everything was like questions to ask your friends. And I'm like, no, I want questions about friendship. So I just took like some of the ones, because I was like, it does get you thinking, right? Like it's friendship concept, like it's not anything concrete. So it's just, and we just learn this stuff, and it is nice to like talk about it.
I like reading prompts like this too, because it makes me think about these topics, as I feel like it's important. Like the people who you surround yourself with are just as important as like your marriage relationship, you know, it's like your circle.
Yeah. And it is so important, that balance too.
Let's start with friendship turnoffs.
Yes.
So
yes,
I was thinking that like, as I get older, I noticed I want friends in my life that can tell me how they're truly feeling.
Yes.
I find that a lot of people like say yes, and like when they don't want to do something or do things out of obligation. And I feel like it's really important to have transparency, especially I understand kind of when in the hockey world a little bit, when it's not like, you know, you kind of have to sometimes let people down easy if you don't want to do something. Like you can't be super blunt. But I find in like those long lasting relationships, you have to be super upfront with like what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Exactly. I feel the exact same. Like my friends, like from college, and my friends that I met when I was younger, I have no problem. Like sometimes if we've got a scheduled phone call or whatever, like sometimes it's just like, hey man, I'm so tired. Can we reschedule? And I don't feel bad, but I find especially because the hockey friendships, you're always moving around, it's changing. Even if you've been on the same team with someone for a few years, it's still just like, you're almost like, are they going to think, you know, ill of me because I said no? Or so, yeah, I feel definitely in those scenarios, I'm like a lot more, I'm like, okay, I'll drag my feet and I'll do whatever they want me to do. But with my, long-term friendships, I'm like, which shouldn't be like that, but I guess it is.
I know. I totally find myself like in my head sometimes with hockey friendships, especially when you don't know someone super well too. Like, I feel like I will question, like, did I overshare? Did they take this the wrong way? Like I read way too much into conversations until you get like on that, like when you start peeling back like the layers, then you start to get more relaxed and you're like, okay, they obviously like don't care. Yes. But it's hard to read people sometimes when you're just meeting them. Do you find that?
all the time. Yeah.
Did they take that the wrong way?
Yeah. And I think we talked about that on the episode that I did a little bit, just when you are meeting new people, you're just trying to be that relatable, funny, but like not weird. And we all are so weird. So it is funny how we just go through the motions. And then finally you get to that level where you're like, okay, I can like dial it down a notch. I can just be me. So that's a good point to be at. And hopefully everyone thinks like that, because it is true. It'd be so much easier if we could just go into it like being authentic right from the get-go.
I know, I've been trying to get better at that, because believe it or not, I mean, people would probably think that I'm not shy because I have a podcast, but I actually can be. It just depends. Like if I get into a new group, I can be like more reserved and less weird than I normally am. But I've been trying to just be like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. If you don't like me, whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever had one of my biggest friendship deal breakers? I was actually very close with a person. And have you ever had someone that has only been friends with you because it's been convenient, and then your friendship kind of like tapered when it stopped being convenient? Because I had a really close friend a few years ago, and the guys that we were dating were, you know, friends in the same circle. So we got really close. And then, just they broke up, and then we broke up, me and my ex. And it was almost just like, she was like, oh, I'm kind of busy. Oh, and I just like 2 and 2 added up. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I think she was just friends with me because it was convenient. But it's just strange because I thought it was going to be a lifelong friendship, and there's no bad blood now. I don't think I've ever really had a row with any of my friends because I just kind of let it roll off my back. But it's sad more than anything.
Yeah, I have definitely had that. And I think like it's a hard pill to swallow when it's like a long-term friend, but it's also life that you're going to grow apart and like go different directions than people, especially in hockey, because not that many of our friends outside of this hockey world are in this kind of situation.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like it would be hard for people as well to relate to us, just as difficult it is for us to relate to them. And so you naturally just kind of fizzle out, I guess. But I've noticed that there are friends that continue to check in, and like I notice the people that I continue to make the effort for. But then there's those people that I'm like, if I never texted them first, they would never text me first.
No, I know. And even it's been, I was actually just thinking this morning, there's a few of my close friends who it's been, you know, a few weeks, we've Snapchatted here and there, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, I really should schedule some calls. But obviously just having a new puppy and throwing that into the mix has been difficult. But it's like that, it's just that spark in my head where I'm like, oh, I haven't checked in on this friend in a bit. Like I should do that. And I think that's really all it needs to be. Like you don't need to talk to people every day. It's just checking in that once in a while, letting them know, like, I care about you. I'm thinking about you. When can we, you know, catch up? And it shouldn't, like, that's what I love. All my close friends are just easy breezy, easygoing friendships. And I think that's, as an adult, especially, what you need to make it work.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend from high school, and she wound up moving to Boise also several years after we were there. And then we both have kids. So we fell out of touch for a bit after high school. And then we reconnected when she got back to Boise. She doesn't live there anymore, but she's like my mom friend. Like we text almost every single day. And with this whole chaos of like getting over here and traveling, we haven't been talking as much every day. And I texted her and was like, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. I think about you all the time. I miss you. Let's catch up soon. And she was like, I have zero friendship expectations from you right now. Don't even feel like you need to check in. And I think that kind of comes from like my people pleasing, not that feel like I need to people please her by any means, but like, I want to be like, I want to make sure that she knows that I care about her. But I love that she said that, like, I don't have expectations of you right now. I understand that life is busy. So it's good to have those people in your life that aren't like, if you don't talk to me like once a week,
right,
I'm, mad or something, which I feel like is a lot of like high school kind of friendships.
Huge. Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that when people get like upset at you if you do not talk to them for a week? Like, yeah, we don't really talk anymore.
I know. And especially like, I think that's one of the good things about social media. Like, I feel like all my close friends, I'm either just like, I'm sending them like funny reels, just an occasional Snapchat. We'll even just like, you don't even need to like start a text with like, hey, like, it's just like, ask them a question or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, I think that's the good thing nowadays. There are so many different ways that you can let someone know you're thinking about them. Yeah, I'm content with all of like my good friends.
That makes me think though too, Lane and I talked about this on our episode, but I think that people overestimate sometimes the meaning behind a like.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm just liking this, so they know that I liked their picture. But like, you kind of have to go a little bit beyond that sometimes when you're in an adult long-term friendship, when you're not seeing people all the time.
A like literally all sometimes, you know, you're just aimlessly going through your like just clicking. But yeah, I mean, even, you know, whatever, it's always like whatever my friends post or anything, like I'll usually even text them like if it's something exciting, right? Obviously. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of obviously negatives to social media, but that's like one of the big things. And even just Snapchat, like pictures and videos, you know, of my dogs, of whatever. It's always just like, hey, I thought you'd like this, so I'm sending it to you.
Friendship turnoff for me is friendship hoppers. People that get super attached to someone, they're like all about them, wants to do everything with them, and then they freaking leave them to dust and go to the next friend.
Yep.
I can't even wrap my mind around doing that. Like, what is that?
And it's funny too, because as you say that, I'm like thinking, and I'm like, I could name multiple people who have like personally done that to me, or that I just know that do that. And it's like
easy to fall for because they're all about you. They're like, I want to do this with you. I want to do this. And then all of a sudden they're like over you and they're on to the next friend.
Yeah. And like, maybe that kind of ties in with the convenience too. Like, it's like, what can you give me right now? And like, maybe I'll go. And it's almost like, instead of just being so, like obsessed with someone for 20 minutes, how about you just make, you know, friendships with everyone and just like wade your way in.
Do you think that's an insecurity thing?
Maybe it might be almost like a job interview, you know, like maybe it's just like, okay, I'll like really impress them from the get-go and then I'm good. And then I'll move on to another friend and do that. But it's like friendships are just like any relationship. You got to like put time into that. You got to like ease your way into it. It's all, it really is a turnoff. Even like, Scott's best woman, Sabrina, she was over at our house this weekend. So she's like his best friend. And she's honestly one of my best friends now too. And we were just talking about how it almost is just kind of cringy when I'll be in social situations and I'll just meet a girl and then like you're saying bye and then she'll be like, love you. And I know it's always meant with good intentions, but like we were just like, oh, it's not really, because it's just like, what do you say back? Like, I guess, you know, you could just say love you and just whatever. But just to me, I'm like, oh, that's probably one of my turnoffs. So
if you're not good friends, like if you're just acquaintances, you mean, or if you're good friends?
No. If you're just like, or you just met, like, I can't tell like how many times, like, you know, just even meeting like new friends of other friends. And it's fun to say like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. You're great. But just like that kind of like love you at the end of the night, I'm like, I don't really know you well.
Yeah. You're like, it's a little early. Like, I don't know if this is
like, it just seems like very like not genuine, but
here's a key to my apartment.
Yeah.
Do you know what that's from?
I actually don't.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me you watched Friends.
Okay. Well, I was just watching it before we logged on here. So yes.
Okay. You know the scene where, have you seen all of it?
Yeah. Multiple times.
Ross is dating Mona and she was like wanting to do the Christmas card with him.
Yeah.
and then
the best episodes.
And he's like, I don't think I'm there yet. And then something like, I don't remember the exact scene, but anyways, he's like, here's a key to my apartment when he like actually wanted to break up with her. I don't know why that just popped into my head, but you know.
No, I was just watching like as I was having my breakfast before this. So I'm upset that I forgot about that. But it is true. I think like in every show, I always remember the first few seasons a lot better. And I feel like Mona was season like 8?
Yeah, those are my favorite, the ends of Friends. I feel like the first couple are a little slow and then it gets really, really funny.
The only thing I did notice about Friends, which is totally off topic, except for the name of the show, Friends, is that Joey was like he was like a stud in those first few. He had like the long hair that like kind of like flop. And then at some point, like they just cut his hair short and did it spiky, I guess, because that was the thing. I'm like, why'd they do that? Like I think just watching a show multiple times through, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. I love that show. I could watch that on repeat. I feel like I've seen it so many times. Advice and insight into our lifestyle and situations. I think something for me that has kind of delayed my start into getting into therapy is that half of the year I'm living in a different country. So the coolest part about BetterHelp is it's customized online therapy, and they offer video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't even have to see them on camera if you don't want to. And it's way more affordable than going to in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with someone in less than 48 hours. So I'm excited to try out BetterHelp this hockey season. I think that people can only benefit from going to therapy, and it probably can only improve the kind of experience you're going to have during the season. So if you're interested in signing up for BetterHelp, you can head to betterhelp.com/breaking the ice.
Hi, everyone. Brittany here. I am so excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Emma Winnitoy, and she is the girlfriend of back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Mitchell Stevens. This is such a special episode for me as my first episode as a co-host, because Emma and I have actually known each other since we were little kids. Our brothers played on the same competitive hockey team, and we grew up running around the arenas together. So it really came full circle for us when my husband Scott and her boyfriend Mitch played on the same NHL team and even won a Stanley Cup together. Friendship is definitely the underlying theme of the episode today. We start by asking Emma her friendship deal breakers. We then get into the story of how Scott and Mitch met at the airport since they were on the same flight to Tampa for camp, and how they knew their significant others knew each other a little bit growing up. We, of course, then talk Stanley Cup. They recently celebrated their day with the cup, which is where each player on the winning team gets to bring the cup wherever they want, usually their hometown, and celebrate with their friends and family. They brought the cup to both Uxbridge, Ontario, where they have a house, and they did another boat parade in Peterborough, Ontario, which is where Mitch is from. We talk about how her and Mitch met over Instagram and how she initially didn't want to date him because of long distance. On that note, we talked about how challenging it was when they spent 6 months apart due to call-ups and the bubble situation that the guys had to be in for playoffs last year. She got super real with us about how she had doubts about their relationship during that time, since it had been so long since they'd last seen each other. Switching gears, we talked doodles since we figured out there were 5 between Devin, Emma, and myself. She told us about the time that they adopted their golden doodle, Leo, and how Mitch didn't see him for 8 months, which completely tugged at our heartstrings since Mitch left and he was a puppy and came back and he was a full-grown dog. Emma is such a kind-hearted and down-to-earth person, which really makes for the ideal friend in this crazy hockey lifestyle. She always makes everyone feel welcome, and talking with her and Devin today genuinely felt like I was taking a break to catch up with my girlfriends. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as we enjoyed ourselves while recording it, and let's take it back to the early 2000s when Emma and I first met.
Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Look how freaking tanned you are.
I know. I spent the weekend at the cottage.
Good. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Give me some of that color. I feel like I'm so pasty. It's just gross.
I'm
So,
always really tanned.
Meet Devin. Devin, meet Emma.
Hi.
Hello. We've also chatted over Instagram for a while. So we were just laughing because Brittany started introducing you like as you were like rolling onto the call. So
I was just so
Okay,
excited.
so we're both new to this.
No, you guys are gonna kill it. I was debating, I'm like, do I fill my cup with coffee? Do I do wine or do I do water? And I went with
Yeah.
water.
What time is it?
It's 4
In the afternoon?
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
a little, it's in the morning.
We could go many different ways.
Very, always. And I feel like it's never too early for wine, honestly. I mean, you could just make an excuse for it for any given reason.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me today. So like Britt said, my name's Emma, and I grew up in a small town of Uxbridge, Ontario, which is like 20,000 people, give or take. So it's crazy that our paths crossed not once, but multiple times after that. And now we're doing a podcast together, which is so crazy. But I just actually finished school. So I went to Queen's University in Canada for my undergraduate degree. I did health studies, and then I went on to do teachers college. So I just graduated from that. So I'm in the process of figuring out what I want to do with that. But my boyfriend was playing for Tampa for all I've known him, for their AHL team and then in their NHL. And we just recently got traded to Detroit. So we are moving to Michigan. We bought a house in Uxbridge, so this is our home base, but we obviously are traveling for many months of the year. So I'm excited for a fresh start.
Yeah. Okay, Brittany, that was an amazing introduction. I'm just going to bring you on for all of my intros for the rest of eternity. And Emma, congratulations on winning 2 Stanley Cups. First of all, that's literally amazing. And how did you guys, both of you, I guess this question can be for both, full circle, knowing each other since you were 5 to being on the same team together, how excited were you for that to actually happen?
It was unbelievable. So Brittany, I always looked at as like an older sister figure when we were like growing up. Like she was the really cool 4 years older than me, would still hang out with me at the arena when I was like tiny. And she always was just so amazing. And then even growing up through we went to the same high school. So like through leadership camps, and like she was just such a role model. And then when we ended up both dating hockey players and then both being on the same team, I was so excited. So we both started in Syracuse for the year, and we ended up living 2 apartments down from each other.
Yeah, there's one in between us.
Yeah, and it was just like the best thing ever. And then our boyfriend totally hit it off right away too, which also just made it so much better.
There, yeah. Mitch, I will say, I actually have a funny story on that like line, because I don't even know if you know this, Emma, but when Mitch and Scott, I think like first met in person, they were both, I think, flying to Tampa for camp. So they were both leaving from, I think, Toronto, like Pearson Airport. And Scott was like, oh, like there's someone like waving at me. And he's like, oh, like Wedge. And like Scott was texting me and he's like, who would know me? Like that's also going to Tampa. And I was like, I think that's my like Emma's boyfriend. And then Mitch went up to Scott and he was like, yeah, your wife used to babysit my girlfriend. And the way that he said it, because like we would run around the rink when we were younger and our brothers had hockey games. And obviously I think I was one of like the older siblings. So like as the parents were just, having their drinks and watching the games, I would be kind of like babysitting, watching the kids. But like Scott texted me and he's like, how young is Mitch's girlfriend?
Did you really babysit her, or?
Bad way to phrase it, but yeah. So
that's
really
so funny. I feel like at that age though, 4 years feels like such a huge age difference.
Yeah. If she was like 5, I would have been 9, right? So yeah, that says it all.
Or I was just entering high school and you were just leaving. Like it did seem like a big age gap at the time, but not anymore, of course.
As you get older though, I feel like that doesn't matter unless you're just extremely immature. Cause like I have friends that are like literally 50 years old.
Yeah. We have friends, we have neighbors next door to us, and then the parents of the girls that I nanny, and they're in their like mid 40s. And I just said to Scott this weekend, I was like, I like hanging out with these people better than like half of the people on stage, because like they're still like, they want to have fun, but like they also like going to bed early, and you don't feel like absolute like crap in the morning after, because they're like, oh, we got to go do this with the kids and blah, blah, blah. And Scott and I are like, we're just 50-year-olds and 20-something bodies.
Well, that's like Mitchell and I too. Well, not so much myself, but Mitchell for sure is like, oh, he's 80 at heart. He is such an old soul.
Hit it off so much.
Yes. Like such an old soul. And so same thing. Like we're always like hanging out with like people that are older than us just because that's who we get along with the best. So it's so nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like they want to party in like the best way possible. And they're so funny because they have so much life experience that I feel like they always come in with like these one-liners and you're like, yes, like that's my favorite kind of humor, just dry humor.
Come out of nowhere, they don't talk. And then when they do talk, it's hilarious. And you're like, yes.
Those are the best kind of people.
Totally agree.
So Brittany and I, before you jumped on the call, and sorry, we took a little bit to answer because we just got sidetracked per usual, but we were talking about friendships, and Britt, I feel like we could even talk about like some of those things that we were going to talk about, but didn't get to. But before we answered, we were talking about friendship deal breakers. Do you have any deal breakers in friendships that stand out to you that come to mind?
Ooh, I would say loyalty for me is like one of my like biggest things. I'm just loyalty back and forth.
And what does that mean to you?
I'm the kind of person who is like, we could not talk for a year, we could not talk for a week, we could not talk for 6 months, pick up right back up where we left off kind of person. And so like just always being there and like having those friends that you could always call no matter what's going on in your life, like just being a really loyal friend. And I try to do that to all my friends as well.
And knowing too that they have your back. Like I just writing down notes for like friendship deal breakers. The biggest thing for me that I think just as I get older too is just like, I think your social circle does, tighten, and especially after school. So it'll be interesting like for you, Emma, because that's kind of like where you are now, like obviously, but it's kind of sad at first because I'm like, oh, I used to have, I don't even know how many friends, and now it's just kind of like the important people, you keep in touch with. But if someone, one of the biggest ones for me that I didn't say that plays into loyalty is just they can't be like gossiping behind your back, because if they are your friend, they should be able to just take it up with you if they have an issue or whatever. I cannot stand when like someone will be like, oh yeah, so I heard this and blah, blah, blah. And then it's just, you've got gossip, you're hurt, the other person's hurt. So many people are involved when they could have just came up to you and said it directly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to kind of trail off that, jealousy. That is a friendship deal breaker. I want to celebrate all of my friends' successes and never feel jealous of them. And I hope they feel the same about me. Like we are celebrating each other and supporting each other and lifting each other up. My mom always told me growing up, you are, your personality is that of your 5 closest friends. Like you are a resemblance of your 5 closest friends. And I always took that to heart. Like, wow, who are those people that I really want?
I love that.
Get them out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, the other one, see you later.
Yeah.
That's so true. And now that you say that, that's totally one for me too, because I feel like I've had that happen to me where I just feel like there's like, I start to feel this competitive aspect where it's almost like a one-up situation. And I am like, why can't we all just be happy for these things? Or like, I have gone through things, and I'm sure you guys can relate too, like where something exciting happens to you and then you like don't hear from someone that you would have expected to hear from, or you start an endeavor or something and it's just crickets.
2 Stanley Cups now, like the people that reached out to us was so interesting. And like Mitchell and I really sat down and talked about it too. Or like, who are the people that reached out to us because they genuinely were happy, and who are the people that reached out because they wanted something, like they knew the cup was coming, or like things like that.
And I don't know if Devin, it might have been something that Breaking the Ice posted, but this like really, and I've seen it other places before too, but someone was like, isn't it interesting too how sometimes the people that have your back the most are friends that you aren't even that close with? Like it's almost like sometimes the friends that like you expect to be there for you, it is like in those moments of like where they might be jealous, it's just kind of like, well, where are you? And on the hockey note, I felt this sometimes with some of my friends. But I think our lifestyle is so different, and a lot of people do look at it as just like, oh, it's easy. Oh, there's, you get to play hockey for a living. Oh, sometimes you don't work because you can't work. And then they just kind of develop this notion about your life, which kind of snowballs into that jealousy, because they're like, oh, it's so easy. Oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. This, your husband, boyfriend, whatever, plays hockey. And it's just like, if you're thinking like that, like that's not a friend to have. But I've definitely kind of, and it makes you really crappy to think about it, because you're like, oh, there's so many, you know, not glamorous parts about this life too, that it would be really nice to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So many not glamorous parts.
I know. And I feel like I always I start to question myself when a friend is doing that to me. Like, I'm like, did I do something that's making them act like this towards me? When really it's stemming from their own insecurities. From a recovering people pleaser, which is something I'm still working on. It's like, I start to look inward and I wonder if I did something, which is not a fun feeling. But at the end of the day, I feel like those people aren't going to be your long-term friends.
Yeah. A reason, a season, or a lifetime. Seriously,
Yes.
those friends, right? Like we've all heard it. Like they're making you question yourself when deep down you know who you are and know that you would never, I mean, intentionally or unintentionally do something to hurt somebody, you know, like you should never be questioning yourself in friendships.
Yeah. And you mentioned the cup, which I wanted to talk about. So guys, I actually didn't know that if you win the Stanley Cup, each player gets to take the cup home, right? For how long do you get to keep it for?
One day only. Like the
That's
cup,
it?
yeah, you get it at 9 a.m. and it has the curfew of 12 p.m.
And who picks it back up?
So there's a cup keeper that stays with the cup the entire day. So there was 2 of them and they stayed with us the entire day. They drive it to you. They like hand it to you with their white gloves, like their Michael Jackson gloves. And then they like take it away at the end of the night.
Oh my gosh. That is so,
Yeah.
I mean, I get that because I feel like if they didn't have that, someone would for sure steal that. But
absolutely.
That's very intense.
Yeah, but like, so because of COVID last year, nobody that won it last year got their day with the cup.
Oh no.
So it was like, we were like, I mean, how crazy that won it twice, but like we were celebrating 2 in 1. And then you want to see so many people and do so many things in this one day. It is so packed. We were dead by the end of the night.
So what'd you do with it?
So we started the morning here at our house in Uxbridge, and we had all of our like family and friends from this side of town come. And then we were here for a couple hours. It was really nice. We had a photographer and brunch and everything here. And then we took a party bus and we took it to Peterborough, which is Mitchell's hometown. And we took it there and did same kind of thing at his parents' house. And then he did another boat parade, of course, because COVID, and that's COVID friendly. But they went down the river there in Peterborough, which was beautiful. And then they came back to a park. The boat parade ended at a park, and he did a whole community event for like all the kids and everything, which was melt my heart. And then after that, we just took it to like a rooftop patio and finished the night there with just like our closest friends and family, which was so nice.
I bet all eyes were just on you guys all day. Like people are probably just like all over town.
All day. And then I saw like news reports coming out after, and it was like me walking beside Mitchell. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you need to be more aware of where the cameras are.
It would be that celebrity moment. Like even the boat parade from the first year, I remember getting like tagged in just like random people's photos on Instagram. And you're just like, oh, not from that angle. No. Like,
yes.
learn my angles if I'm going to be this much of a celeb.
I know. I'm like, okay, so they're used to it. I'm really not. I'm normally, hiding in the background.
The people used to it are just like pose at all times.
I swear Mitchell at all times knows where all the cameras are, and like he's just on it. And I'm like, wow, this is a talent.
Yeah. The thing is, I feel like guys don't really take bad pictures. Cause like for me, not that I'm like relating this to having the Stanley Cup and having like photographers publish me around, but like wedding photos, like when you're in a wedding and you see photos and you're just like in the background of it, just like, could we not? Like I have 20 chins. This is not a cute angle of my arm. Like, let's not post this online.
Or where you're dancing, like I've seen so many wedding photos. And people are dancing, and like the dancing, you think you look really good, you don't.
No.
I'm just gonna tell my photographer to like as soon as the dancing starts, just like avoid me. Just avoid me. I don't
avoid the bride.
Yeah, avoid the bride.
Please.
Well,
Do
you're gonna look
everybody a
gorgeous.
favor. Yes,
Yeah.
you will.
You on your wedding day though, I feel like all of those pictures turn out good. I was scared of that. I'm like, make me look. I always say this when I get professional pictures done. I'm like, make me look thin and tan. That's what I say every single time.
Yes.
And on your, I mean, there's times where we get pictures back and I'm like, don't love that. But like my whole wedding album I love. So I feel like you'll love every single
and
picture.
Like power of like editing too. Like we have a photographer and her style's it's like minimal, but like still I don't know if you've seen those like reels on Instagram where they show like the unedited versus the edited. And it's just like that simple filter can just do so much. So yeah, I hope that when you pay, you know, a professional photographer, they know what they're doing. I'm like, you can do this. I have faith in you.
Yes. You got this. You make me look good.
Yeah. Try and get a back photo with Scott just for fun. I just want to see.
Yeah. That's your task for the night. Yeah. I actually have like a funny quick side story, but like on the night of my rehearsal dinner, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I hired just like a cheapy photographer because I really just wanted someone to come like snap pictures and like I didn't even really care if they were edited. And I got them all back, you guys, and I was in 3 of them. 3 photos for my rehearsal dinner.
They did not know who the bride was.
I'm like, so I messaged her and was like, hey, were there more photos of like Charlie and I? And I didn't really give her like much to work. Cause I just thought she would just be snapping pictures all night. So I just said, yeah, do whatever. I trust you. Yeah. Don't ever tell someone that. Make a list. I mean, but so I said, do you have any more pictures? And she said, oh no, I'm so sorry. Like, I thought you just wanted me to take pictures like of the guests. I'm like, well, yeah, I did, but it's also my rehearsal dinner. And I also wanted some pictures of myself to remember the night.
To put that in like Stanley Cup terms, that would be like if they took photos of the parade and the cup was in like 2 of them.
Yes.
Like the Stanley Cup at that point.
Exactly.
Right? Or like the players aren't in any of them. They're just taking pictures of us. Like nobody wants to see me. They want to see the guys.
Exactly. She was like, oh my gosh, I'll give you your money back. I was like, it's fine. It's the concept that I will never get these photos back again, but I hope you feel good.
I'm glad my guests got lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. You guys were in Syracuse together and that was your guys' first season together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was like 2 doors down from each other or like 1 apartment between us.
So leading up to that, had you guys talked in recently?
I feel like we kind of like kept tabs on each other. Like it was like that Instagram love, but it is true. Like what Emma was saying. So that 4-year difference was a little bit tougher because I would have been leaving high school as she was entering. So like, I feel like high school is where, you know, obviously our families have always been close. Cause like our brothers, Matt, being Emma's and Adam was mine, they played hockey all the way up, like until I don't even remember what age they were. So we always like knew each other. But yeah, then I went away to school and there's a few girls from Uxbridge that were dating hockey players and we all kind of, I think, sent each other love just like virtually because we, you know, knew what it entailed. But yeah, I think when Mitch had obviously been with Tampa for a bit and when Scott signed, like we were both just like, oh my God, like it actually happened.
Yeah. And then Mitch and Scott ended up going apartment hunting like together. Like we weren't even there and they were like going as a couple, I swear, like looking at different apartments. I know.
Do you truly trust them to pick out?
Yeah. I think they were nice. Honestly, they had exposed brick. They were like new apartments. It was great.
By far my favorite apartment that we've ever lived in.
Some guys are like, I don't know if I would totally, I mean, at this point, I think my husband knows like what I like and what I don't like. I'm like modern, period, nothing else. But some people aren't so sure sometimes.
Well, Mitchell's apartments pre me coming into the picture were very questionable. So I think Britt had a lot more trust in Scott than I did in Mitchell, but that's okay.
That's so funny.
I definitely refined his taste. When I first came it was our first summer and I was doing like some sort of summer school courses for university. and lived with Scott for like a month at a time. And like, he was just living in this like outdated apartment, and his mattress was on the floor, and it was just like so old. And I'm like, I don't even know, it probably cost $10 a month to live there, which he was obviously fine with. But I was just kind of like, yeah. So when I live together, we're getting a frame.
Just so you know, I like to not sleep on the ground, but I appreciate that you're doing it. Yeah. We're gonna invest in a bed frame.
Yes. And he lived with another goalie at the times, and both of them just were like rooms across the hall, both just like a mattress on the floor, and like not even like lamp. It was just like they didn't even have a side table. Their like glass of water would just be like on the carpet beside their bed. And I'm like, okay.
How do they live before we come along? I truly want to know. Like, how do they get to the point that they're at?
I don't know. Like, when does it change? I think truly we are the ones to thank for that. You know what? If we could take some credit, it's in the housing and living situations.
Are you guys clean or messy people?
OCD clean.
Are
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I've become OCD like after having a baby, because I just like have to be. But I now have this thing where like before, like in college and stuff, even after that, like I could go to bed with like stuff not cleaned in the kitchen. Like I was like, whatever, I'll get it in the morning. I cannot do that anymore. It literally makes my blood boil if I walk out and there's anything on the counter. Like it has to be completely spotless.
So growing up, oh, sorry, go ahead, Britt.
No, I was going to say, I just like, I'm that person where like, if there is anything on the counter, like it's, and I honestly think I contribute it to my mom growing up, because I would want to have friends over, and if everything wasn't in its place, she'd be like, oh honey, you need to give me more heads up than that. Like, no, they can't come over. So now it's all, I think as long as like, you know, everything's like straightened, I'm fine with it. But like, I almost feel that I can't relax and like sit down, like even in the morning, if I'm about to have my coffee, look at some emails, the counters need to be wiped, like the dishes need to be either in the dishwasher or like on the drying rack. It's not OCD, but it's definitely like I'm a clean freak for
borderline.
Sure.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents called me Hurricane Emma, because every room I walked into, drop everything, did not matter, but I always knew where everything was. Like it was like a talent. My mom would be like, where is this specific sock? And I could go into my room that was a bomb and pull it out. And then as soon as Mitchell and I started getting our own places, so it wasn't until recently, I take so much pride in how clean I keep everything, and everything has a home. Like Mitchell will leave a sock and I'll say, this has a home. It doesn't need to be on the ground here. So now, but it's recent, like within the last like 3 or 4 years that I've become like this.
I will say, every time I went over to their apartment in Syracuse, it was very spotless. So
thank you.
So are your significant others also this way, or are they the opposite?
Both of them. Mitch is very clean, right?
Very clean.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, you guys are making me look bad over here.
Well, you also have a child, so I don't know what I hope that I can still maintain cleanliness, but you know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I find, he leaves his socks everywhere. Socks are his only thing.
Yeah. What about hats?
Basket either.
Oh yes, socks and hats everywhere.
Yeah. I just start stacking it now. Like I don't even put it away. Like I'll just like put it all like on his, like at least here it's a little bit different of a setup. So I'll just put everything on his closet floor, like on his side, and I'll just stack it. I'm like, okay, once this like piles up, maybe he'll put it away.
Maybe he'll get the memo. Yeah.
But every night
up till now, you just need to put it away.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty good. I would say like neither of us are like OCD, but every night I definitely have to like sweep the whole, like not like actually sweep, but just like put everything back in its place so that when I walk out, like you said, and get my coffee, I can just sit down and like relax.
Yeah.
It's a total mental thing.
Yeah.
Emma, okay. So how did you meet Mitch?
Okay. So the filtered story that I tell people is that like we met through mutual friends, but the like actual story is that we met on like my parents and, you know, everybody there. I mean, they know now, but originally I was like, we met through mutual friends. which is kind of true, but like not really. So we met on Instagram. He was playing in the World Juniors at the time, and my family grew up like just huge hockey fans. Both my mom's brothers played professional hockey, so like we just always grew up loving hockey. He was playing in the World Juniors, and one of his interviews had come onto the TV, and I was like, oh my goodness, like he's so well spoken. Like I was just really impressed by his interview. So anyways, I followed him on Instagram, and like a couple days later, he followed me back and started liking a bunch of my pictures. So we started kind of like just messaging back and forth on Instagram, whatever. And then nothing really ever came of it. But I was in my first year at university in residence. One of my best friends at the time was his best friend. They grew up in the same hometown. So she was FaceTiming him. And so we met on FaceTime while he was at the World Juniors for the first time. And then we like started kind of talking after that, and we really got along. We were like, oh, okay, this could maybe go somewhere. And then, I mean, we were so young. I was in my first year. I did not want anything to do with that. Got a different boyfriend, blocked him everywhere because he would not stop reaching out to me. Like Mitchell was blocked his number, social media, Snapchat. Like I was like, stop talking to me.
Because it would have been long distance, right?
Yes. And also I was just like, I'm in my first year university. You're doing World Juniors, sure, getting a lot of attention. I'm good. I don't need that right now.
Getting so much attention at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you know what? We both got to live a little more.
Yeah.
So then I got a different boyfriend. We ended up breaking up. Horrible relationship. But anyways, I was so mad because he had made me block Mitchell on Instagram, and I wanted to like regain all my power back. So I unblocked Mitchell and like re-liked a bunch of his pictures. And then we started talking after that, and we ended up meeting up on New Year's.
Did he know that you blocked him?
Oh yeah. He was.
And what did he say? Was he like, hey, what's like, did you guys just pick back up, or was it like you blocked me?
He was so butthurt, and he was like, why did you do that? Like what? And I was like, well, first of all, like we were never ever going anywhere at that point in time, and we both knew it. So like, let's just relax. And then he was like, oh, so you ditched me for another guy? Like it was almost like a competition thing. He was like, oh, I got to get her back now, which was kind of perfect. I was like, okay.
You're like, I played you like a fiddle.
Exactly. I'm like,
yeah, this is what I wanted.
Now you want me.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we started dating like officially dating like 3 months after we had met. Like we just met, and we just were at a different place in our life and hit it off so well. Like our conversations always just were amazing. Yeah.
That must have been like so crazy for you just at the beginning to like see this guy on TV, be like, oh, he's cute. Just, you know, reach out to him just follow him on Instagram, and then like have him respond. Like that's so just funny about like this day and age. Like Scott was in the World Juniors too. I forget what year it was, but obviously we didn't start until a few years after that. But for me, what was funny was I was like, oh, so before we met, I was watching you on the TV and I didn't even think about it. So it's just that kind of thing just is crazy.
And I was like, my chances of him ever answering me are so slim. But like,
might as well go for it.
Like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot my shot. I loved the way he spoke in his interview, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give her a go.
I wish I had like DM Ryan Reynolds or something. Just shoot.
I know. So ladies, if you're listening and you're single, go for it. You never know what'll happen.
Be like me and just shoot your shot. You never know.
Exactly. I mean, really though. So then, sorry, I'm just trying to like piece your whole timeline together. So Brittany said you guys did long distance, right? After that, or like shortly after?
Yeah. So I was still in school when we started dating, and he was playing in Syracuse. So, I mean, people won't know this, but I went to school in Kingston, Ontario. He was playing in Syracuse, New York. The drive from Kingston to Syracuse was just under 2 hours. So we would see each other all the time. So it was definitely long distance, but at the same time, like every weekend, or like if they had a game Friday, Saturday, and had the Sunday off, he would drive to me, or vice versa. I would go down and see him. So like we were seeing each other like all the time, pretty much every weekend, if not every other weekend. So we did long distance for 2 years.
Yeah. That's like ideal long distance. Like other than crossing the border, if there was a little traffic there, that's amazing.
It was so easy. And I also kind of loved it because I still had my whole life at school and he still had his whole life in Syracuse in hockey. And while we were getting to know each other, I maintained like my life at school. So I was like, if we were to break up, like, I'm not going to see this guy. It's all good. Like I still have my whole life back here. Yeah.
That's true. You had like a country of separation, technically.
Yeah. And I was like, he's never going to just be like venturing over here this way. So
I feel like we just, like the three of us had just missed each other, because I'm pretty sure Charlie played in Syracuse because he played there for 2 years also. But that was in, let's see, I think it was, okay, 14, I think it was the end of 14, 15 and then 15, 16. But he was up and down that second year. So you guys must have came in 16, 17 up until.
He would have come in 16, 17. I would have been there for 17, 18 season.
Yeah. So we were long distance when he was in Syracuse. But then it's just funny because like I could have met you guys years ago.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Oh my gosh. I had no idea he played in Syracuse.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of funny because like the first time he ever got called up was to Syracuse. I was like 6 months into us dating. So I was like, what? Like we're long distance. Like it was just insane. But the ironic part of him getting called up to Syracuse was that his entire mom's side of the family, they are all from Syracuse. Like his mom is from Syracuse. So, and she has a huge family. So she has 9 brothers and sisters and they all live there. So when he got called up to Syracuse, like his entire family lived there. He had his whole family at the games. It was
half the crowd
crazy.
Was just his family.
Yeah, it was so crazy. So then when I went out there, I met like his entire extended family for the first time, but I liked it. I mean, yeah. And that mall is really nice too.
Yeah. Destiny USA is the best mall ever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I loved Syracuse. Oh yeah. I loved Syracuse. Like I loved going there. The downtown area was really beautiful. That we found like so many cute little like shops that we loved that were like the locals would go to, and we loved, like, I loved Syracuse. The food was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Like possibilities.
Yeah, you had to know the areas not to go to for sure. But that's like anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm remembering when we went out to dinner before we had a great, I talked about this a little bit on my episode. We had the year that Emma and I were there together. That was my favorite group of girls, which is sad because that was the COVID and the, new year. That was when COVID came, but we had such a good group of girls and we went to this one place for dinner. Emma might know the name of it, but it was Christmas. And
Otro Cinco. I'm banned from there for life.
We were getting up to go to the game, but we were kind of in a rush and I don't even remember what happened, but Emma stood up and then they had this like window display with all these nice little figurines. They were like here and like fake snow. I turn around and I just see like Emma like catching things as they're falling from the window, like, and the whole restaurant is just looking, and we like turn around and we're like, what just happened?
What had happened?
It was like a deer in headlights too. So I just stood up. I swung my purse around. My purse hit one thing and it was like a domino effect. The whole beautiful display I knocked down. The entire restaurant's looking at me. I smashed like some of their decor. Like it was horrible.
Were you like good friends with everyone at this point, or was this like a newer?
No, that was like by far my favorite year of hockey as well.
Okay,
like the
good.
group of girls were, so when Mitchell got called up, of course I was excited for him. First NHL call up. This is unbelievable. I was devastated to leave the girls.
It's so hard when and like looking back to, I feel like every single person listening to this episode can say or think of that one year in their entire hockey journey that stands out to them, like girl wise, that you're just like, the group just clicked. Like it just was perfect.
There's like no anxiety as you're getting ready for the games. Like I think every other season I'm always kind of like, oh, like who's going to be there? Like, oh, like what should I wear? But like that year, it's almost just like, you don't even care. Cause like there's no judgment. Like you can talk to everyone. Like, yeah, it was top to bottom. It was such a good group.
And the girls that I keep in touch with the most are all from that year of playing. Like they were just unbelievable. Yeah.
And it makes me sad because I feel like I get a lot of messages on the podcast page of people just saying that they're really scared to go to a new team, which I totally get. It's like definitely nerve-wracking when you're going to a new place and you have to start from square one and like tell your story and like hope people like you. So I get that aspect, but I think people are genuinely afraid to meet new people because of bad past experiences that they have had on teams. And it just breaks my heart because we're all in this position together. This happens to all of us, or we're going to new teams. So it's just like, why can't people be more open and nice and just invite people places?
Yeah.
I ask myself the same question.
We started one season and I'll never forget it. Luckily I was there with my dad had come with me. Just to like, I think I was at home and then so like he drove me to this place and dropped me off to like live with Scott, and we were standing there just like my dad and I, and there was like a whole group of girls that I knew just by looking at them were the girlfriends and wives, and they were like in a closed circle, and I could see they were kind of looking over at me, and I love to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I'm like, maybe they didn't know, you know, maybe they were shy, even though they're in a huge group. But like, my dad's just like, oh, did you want to like go introduce yourself? And I'm outgoing, I can make a conversation, but it was just kind of like awkward. I just kind of like walked up, like squeezed my way in, and like, it was almost like I was like, so are you guys the girlfriends and the wives, like blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, could you just someone invite me in? Like, it's so nerve-wracking. If the group of girls is just either, you know, they've got their cliques or whatever, it's oh yeah, I'll never forget that because I was terrified. And it worked out. They were nice girls, but just if you are in that position, now that we're starting a new hockey season, just be that girl that reaches out, because you can pretty much tell just by looking at people if they're a girlfriend or a wife, like, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Exactly. So when Mitchell first got called up, I mean, again, I don't know, on or off the record, but when Mitchell first got called up, of course, I flew out to his first NHL game. It was so exciting. I was there with his family. I walked into the family room and somebody said to me, oh, are you the call-up's girlfriend? And I was just like, that alone just like kind of set the tone in that day. And again, I'm sure it was so unintentional. Like maybe they were trying to welcome me in, but just then I was like, okay, so my place is down here and you're talking to me from up here. So it was just a super unfortunate.
No, I mean, if you don't care if I put that in, because I do think it's relatable. First of all, it's like, learn his name. Like if you know there's a call up and you know there's a new girl coming in, I don't know. I just think like, why would no one reach out to you before and be like, hey, are you coming up to the game? Do you want to come sit with us? Because obviously I'm sure you were nervous to like go there up to the NHL for the first time and not know any of those girls. And it's intimidating to go up there, I'm sure.
Exactly. Or you could have just said my name. Like,
yeah, like I have a name.
Well, yeah. Or like, welcome. Like, I'm so glad you guys are here, whatever. Nothing. Just, I was like, okay, so I will stay quiet and drink my waters. And
there's so many ways that they could have rephrased, you know what I mean? Like, I know sometimes stuff just slips out. You say, I haven't seen it, but you could have even if I had no idea who you were, how I would have approached, I would have said, oh, I don't recognize you. Like, are you dating someone, you know, who's here? Right. It's just kind of, I feel like I've been on both ends of that conversation. And it's just kind of like, hey, like, you look like, you know, you haven't been here before. What's your name? Like, are you dating someone? And sometimes it's even their sister or whatever, but like, that's not offensive. You're just kind of like, oh, like, nice to meet you. I haven't seen you.
You're an unfamiliar face around here. Yeah. So
the worst thing that could happen is their sister. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I know. Yeah. And then, so like, I always made an effort this past season, because the Tampa is definitely an older team. So, and people that have been on the team have been there for a really long time. So they really know each other well. Their kids have gone to school together. So whenever new people came onto the team this past year, because there was a lot of injuries and call-ups and COVID and everything, whenever somebody new came, I always made sure I reached out beforehand, and that I always made sure that they had me to sit beside at the game at least, because I didn't get that my first game, and it was just not a great warm welcoming that I would want to give somebody else.
I feel like maybe that's the reason why that happens, is so that you can, I know it sounds bad because obviously no one wants to experience this, but since you have both, and I myself have also experienced this, now it's like you want to pay it forward and make other people feel like they are welcome. Because maybe if you didn't go through that, you would not be aware that that's even a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That's why I take every experience and I'm like, this happened for a reason, learn and grow from it. No hard feelings at all. Like the girls in Tampa ended up being nice girls and everything. So it all worked out again, which was awesome. But just that first introduction, I was like, I never want anybody to feel isolated like that.
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm like a detective and I look up the roster and then I look up the player and then I go to their Instagram or Facebook, see if they have a girlfriend or wife. Then I message them. So I did that this year for Austria because it's like for like coming all the way to Europe, I think it's nerve-wracking going anywhere. But like for me, I found that it's a lot more scary. And I like to have that comfort of knowing like, okay, like these girls seem super nice. So I just reached out to all the other imports that were coming over. And then I started like a WhatsApp group message between all of us. I'm like, okay, this is like, we're all going to Vienna next year. Like, here's the group chat, you know, just so we can like get to know each other or like ask questions if we need to. And I just feel like having that is so important. And I think like, yeah, even if you can reach out to people before the hockey season even starts, like for you, Emma, you're going somewhere completely new. Like you can be creepy like me and look up the roster and just reach out to someone and be like, hey, I'm going here for the first time. I don't know anyone. Like, let's get lunch whenever you get into town, just to like make yourself feel more relaxed.
For sure. And so Detroit, I know one of the girls because we played in Syracuse together.
Oh, perfect.
But whatever, 3 years ago. But I know one girl. But there have been 3, maybe 4 other girls that have individually all reached out to me as soon as we got traded, just saying, welcome, when are you going to be in town? Would love to get lunch. Like, here are the good hair places, nail places.
I love
like
that.
I've been blown away by the organization so far and the people in it. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a good change for sure, I think.
How did you feel about the trade? Were you excited or were you nervous?
Shocked at first, like had no idea. We signed a lease for a new apartment in Tampa. All of our stuff is down there. We left the car there because we just assumed we were going back. He has one more year on his contract. So when he called me, he got the call at 9 a.m. and he was already on his way to training for the morning. So he called me and he never calls me in the morning. So I was like, either car accident, like speeding ticket, something like that. Never thought of trade. And he said it. And my first response, I was like, you're kidding. Like, that's a joke. And he was like, no, I'm dead serious, Emma. And I was like,
did your stomach drop when he told you?
Like immediate butterfly, stomach drop. And then I'm such a planner and an organizer. I didn't even process the fact that he got traded. All I thought about was moving companies. How are we going to get the car home? Where are we going to live? Like my mind is I'm such a planner that I don't adjust to change overly well, which is hard in this world for sure, but I didn't expect it. So then my mind just went to immediate planning. And then as soon as we got home and we actually sat down and talked about it, and I saw that he was really excited, I was excited for him. And I made 2 friends in Tampa that will be lifelong girlfriends for sure. But other than that, I never really connected with any of the girls. And so I think change was good for both of us. And same with him. This past season was so hard on him. He broke his foot 5 games into the season, I think it was, got surgery, and then was pretty much out the rest of the season. So of course they won the Stanley Cup and it was unbelievable, but the season mentally was so hard and he never really felt like he was a part of the team. So I think change for both of us is going to be really positive.
Yeah, I think like having that fresh start can feel good sometimes. We're on the same team for the past 2 seasons and then we moved this year to a new city and it just felt good. I was like, you know what? I was kind of ready for like a new vibe.
Yeah. Right? I think, sometimes change is really good. And I think we're in that situation now where change is good. And I've always been the youngest girlfriend on the team. I'm only 22 years old. So I've always been the youngest on the team. And going to Detroit, I think there's girls that are like the same age as me. And even that just feels so good. I'm like, people are going to understand just kind of where I'm at in life as well.
Yeah. I did not know you were 22. You seem way older than that, just by the way.
Oh, thank you. But
I guess that makes sense now because you're 26, right?
Then I'm 27 and Emma will be 23. So 4 years.
Yeah. You're still 26, right?
I'm almost 29, guys, in a month. So don't want to hear it.
hey, you're not 30 yet. So
Almost close.
29 is that birthday that my mom's like, I'm 29 forever. So like now you turn 29 and then you're just 29 forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. But you know what? I feel like this might be me just saying this as I get older, but I'm like 30 is the new 20. And then I'm sure when I'm 30, I'm gonna be like 40 is the new 30. And I'm like, I swear like 60-year-olds are cool. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the new 20, 60.
I think it's all about lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Exactly. You can look at two different 60-year-olds and like, it's just all about perspective.
Exactly.
I feel like we covered a lot of good content. Doodles. We all have doodles.
Yeah.
So between now, we're adding another doodle into this mix. So now we have 5.
5 doodles.
Between the three of us. No, between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
Oh, I was gonna say, okay, I don't have 5 doodles, just to make that
No,
very
you
clear.
have 2. Britt has 2. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine traveling to Europe with anything more than 2?
No, absolutely not.
Oh,
Charlie will sometimes like joke, like, should we get another doodle? I'm like, I'm sorry, how are we supposed to transport another dog?
with a baby.
Yeah, exactly. So when did you get your golden doodle? Is it a golden doodle or what kind?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's a golden doodle. He was going into his 3rd year of his entry level contract. He was really hoping, he had a really great season the year before, never got an opportunity with Tampa. So he was like, you know what? We're going to get a new apartment. We're going to start like in a new building, new area at Syracuse. We're going to furnish it nicer than we ever have before. And then we're like, you know what? We need something bigger than hockey. So we were like, let's get a dog. Like, we're ready for a dog.
I think Scott and I had a huge hand, if I do say so.
Oh, are you kidding? Absolutely.
Because Captain was always just around and they were 2 doors down. And then Emma and Mitch were like, we're gonna get a doodle. And I'm like, oh, we're bringing them over to the dark side, the doodle side.
Yeah.
Seriously. And Cap was just like, he is the most amazing dog in the world, which I also think set the standards really high for what we were getting. But anyways, so we finally found Leo is his name. We found Leo and ended up getting him in mid-November. I was still in school. So our plan was, I'm going to keep the dog with me till he gets all of his vaccinations to be able to cross the border. So it was all good. I was going to have him for like 2 weeks. And I was like, no problem. I have roommates that love dogs. Like, we'll totally be good. So we get all of his vaccinations. I'm ready to come across the border. I drive across the border. We're all good. We're finally together as a family. I'm like so happy to help with a puppy because I was still in full-time school. And I was like, I need a little bit of help here. Get to Syracuse. We're there for a weekend. 1 weekend. He gets called up on the Sunday. I drove there on the Thursday. He gets called up on that Sunday. And I was like, okay. So just again, a whirlwind. So we were like, Mitchell's been with the dog for a total of 3 days now. So I'm like, all right, pack him back up. We're driving back home. So I drove back home to Uxbridge, like where we're from. And so drove the dog back home to Uxbridge. He got called up, never came back. He never once came back to Syracuse. Or I guess he got sent down for 1 weekend.
So then what did you guys do?
Right?
Did you go back down?
So they just said, we're sending you down, whatever. So I was like, all right, me and the dog are packing back up. We're going to drive back to Syracuse. He had gotten a call. He landed that morning, gotten a call by that night saying, you're coming back up tomorrow morning.
Were you on your way down?
Isn't that too so that they can like save, I'm going to butcher this. This isn't official hockey terms, but I know that Scott, if you were here right now, could tell you exactly, but they do
Bring him in. I'm just kidding.
I know. Yeah. Where is he? They do this. I think he actually might be at a skate now because it's quiet upstairs. They do this, I think, as a way it's either something with the roster or to save money or both. Like, because I know that even Conacher, who was up and down a lot before Mitch, that happened. I feel like he lived at the airport before Mitch did. And then it was almost like they switched and Mitch was almost just kind of like, oh yeah, you're going down. Oh, wait. Turn around, you're coming back up.
Yeah. And because it was pre-COVID, they would put them on the planes. Like they would physically put them on the plane. So he was sent down a ton on paper and it was all for money so that they didn't have to pay him.
Yeah.
NHL money for the time they would send him down. So he would play a game. They would send him down that night. And then if they had a game, whatever, 2 days later, they'd call him back up. So he lived, he never got a housing letter. So he stayed in a hotel the entire time he was in Tampa from December 9th until whenever, March, because that's when COVID happened. He was in a hotel.
And isn't it funny when you think about how much money not only the organizations have, but then you see some of these blockbuster contracts where guys are making like 10 million a season. And you're like, Mitch was probably what, like on maybe minimum in the NHL. And you're worried about like the couple of $100 you're going to save by sending him down by.
Oh yeah. Like he was still on his entry level, like contract. And I'm like, you're really worried about him. But anyways, they kept doing it. So anyways, Mitchell was never in a secure enough spot that I could like fly the dog down to Tampa. I was also still in my 4th year of university, so I couldn't do that. So Mitchell, for the first 8 months of Leo's life, had spent 3 days with the dog. 3 days. So we got this dog.
Glad we did this together.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so this is my dog now. And it's so funny because then Mitchell came home from the bubble. Oh my gosh, that sounds so crazy. But yeah, they went to the bubble after, and then Mitchell came home,
right.
And Leo had no idea who he was.
Yeah,
and I felt so bad. Yeah, he was like, Mom, like you've raised me. And like, I think he thought my brother, because we just bought this house in October. So we were still living at home with my parents. And so he thought my brother was his dad for sure. And I was like, oh, the poor guy.
That's so funny. So what about now? Is he like, he's earned dad title?
He's very much my dog, but very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
He loves Mitchell, but more as like a sibling, I think. Like I'm just the primary for sure.
Yeah.
Like Mitchell's like the fun dad that like comes home and plays with him and gives him all the treats, but I'm the one that does everything else.
Yeah. Well, we're with them all the time. They're gone often. It's like we're literally with them all the time.
All the time. So even just this past weekend, we were at the cottage. We're trying to get the dog to jump off the dock. He loves swimming, but won't jump off the dock. Mitchell's jumping in, has treats in the water, sticks and balls. I just go jump off the dock. The dog jumps in off after me. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's tough, man. I wanted to go back to what you said about the call up and send downs. Just a brief note. Like, I just feel like that's so hard on the player and also just like on your relationship. I think that's a very under talked about thing. Like, oh yeah, it's so hard for the guys when that happens, but it's like also like there's so much stress going on behind that for the guys that it does like take a toll on your relationship, especially if you're long distance. Like I've been there and it sucks.
Yeah. And even like the constant, Mitchell is really hard on himself. I'm sure all professional athletes are, but he overthinks everything. So he's like, oh, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't play well enough. He's like going through video of his game. And I'm like, he overthinks everything. And even that, like he's so hyper focused on his career that your relationship kind of takes a back seat. It's really tough. Really, really tough.
The pressure that's put on them. And, you know, for this shot anyway, whatever the league they get called up to, not only is there the pressure, but you think about those long days at the airport and say that does happen to them. They're at the airport, they're flying there one day, they're flying back the next, and then they go play a game. And it's like, do you expect them to be at their top peak performance when they've been living on airplane food, not sleeping, and now you want them to like prove themselves? Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes like literally saying there's a game in 2 hours and you're playing in it.
Yeah. And then if you don't play well enough, just know that you're also going to get sent back.
That's your shot.
Yeah.
You only get one. Like
no pressure. Exactly. Don't mess it up.
I know. It was a mentally exhausting year. And then on top of that, so I was down in Florida with Mitchell when COVID all happened, and then the borders were kind of getting sketchy, and we didn't know if I was going to be able to get back home. So I was like, I got to get home. I wasn't a dependent on him at the time. So I wasn't under his health insurance. So I was just nervous that if I got sick, it wasn't going to be good. So I came back home, and then they went to the bubble. So then we were apart for 6 months. It was a total of 6 months that we were apart, like could not even see him, like just FaceTime. And that was really tough. Like that, I was like, if we made it through this, we can make it through anything at this point. But there were several times in those 6 months that I was like, I don't know if our relationship is going to make it through this. Like it was hard. So I really have a great appreciation for people that do the long distance.
Thank you for saying that. That's very honest. And I feel like a lot of people wouldn't admit to that, but I mean, I've certainly been in that position with long distance as well, where I'm like, I don't know, man, this is not good. Like it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
At that point, you're almost kind of like, I'm married and I still sometimes I'm just thinking like, obviously this life we're so fortunate for it, but I'm just always like, oh, like, imagine if we both just worked 9 to 5s and we just lived in one place and we could just get cozy and there wasn't a phone call that could just uproot your life and, stable salaries, just set down roots. And like, I'm married and sometimes I think that, right? And I find like the long distance too, obviously. I mean, we had to do 3 months when Scott was in the bubble. And even then I was like, we haven't done 3 months apart since like we first started dating. And it wasn't difficult at that point because we've been together, but just still in the back of my head, I'm like we do sacrifice a lot. So that's why I'm so thankful that, for this podcast to kind of show, relate for the other wives and girlfriends and for anybody who's not, just to like kind of see that it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Like it was really hard. And there was times where, because he was in and out of the lineup, even during playoffs last season, his mental and then not being able to see any family or friends for that much time. Like as soon as I had left Tampa, he didn't see any family or friends for 6 months. Like he was not in a great place. COVID was terrifying back then. Like we had no idea what we were in for. And so there was a lot of factors and I was like, I don't know if I can be the support that he needs me to be right now. So yeah. It was tough.
Well, because we're all battling different battles, right? Like, so it's hard because especially in a year like with the pandemic, it's hard on all of us. And I think everyone's mental health was affected. So it's hard to like give sometimes too, when you're in that place of feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated or like whatever that is. But yeah, 6 months is a long time. I feel like we only would like, once we hit that like 3-month mark of long distance, I was like, I need to book a flight. Like, obviously you couldn't because of the bubble, but it was like, we need to see each other. Cause this is like,
the amount of times I was like, I'm going to the bubble. I'm breaking in. I don't care. I will get caught by the police. I'm climbing the fence. Like I'm done.
Close to where the bubble, like that was the thing that like, I was like, I think Emma and I were texting about this last year. We're like, at my mom's house, because she's not in Uxbridge anymore. I was 25 minutes away from their hotel. Emma could have been like probably an hour. We're like, we could literally like, Emma, come pick me up on your way. We're going to go just like see them. We'll just stand at the fence. Cause they were, we're like, they are so close to, it's like that bubble boy. We're like, we can look at them, but we can't touch.
That's so, that's so frustrating. And you went months without seeing them and they were right there.
Yeah. Right there.
Right there.
I know that it was almost better when they went to Edmonton because
at least they were gone.
I didn't feel like I could like go see them. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. It's the Toronto one was like so tough. And I was touring wedding venues in Toronto with my mom, and Scott was literally like 10 minutes away at some venues that I was looking at. And I was like FaceTiming him. I'm like, what is this world?
Oh my God. Hopefully we're on some sort of exit out of this crazy life, and hopefully it's not going back to where it was, because that would not be good for anyone.
No. So I just finished school. So I just finished teachers college, and thankfully my teachers college was online. So I was able to live in Tampa this entire past year with Mitchell, where I wouldn't have been able to. And so some things like that, I'm like, it was a blessing in disguise, because I would have never got that quality time after such a hard year. And like, thank goodness for that, because we needed this past year to just build our relationship in such a solid foundation. But then other things like the bubble, I'm like, I hate COVID.
Yeah.
We're coming up. Last time we were home was in October. And then we quarantined at my mom's house after Tampa. And we left in October to come back to Michigan. So I'm like, to also say, I'm waiting on my green card. And while you're if there's any other ladies that are Canadian trying to get an American green card or will in the future, you can't leave the country while they're in progress. So it's not COVID related why we can't go home, but obviously tack that onto COVID and longer wait times for the green cards now. So if we get to this October and it's been a year since I've seen my family, like, that's definitely another part of this life, I think, that factored it into me. Like when I was, some of those harder nights when you're weighing it, you're like, I'm uprooting, not only are you uprooting your life, but you're like, my best friends and family, like those are your most important relationships,
your support system.
Yeah. And you're now leaving those behind for this new one that you're just taking a huge risk on. So yeah, that aspect too is just crazy.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure Mitchell and I are in for another tough year, because this will be the first time that I haven't been in school or working. So like this year will be the first time. I mean, I'm supply teaching online. Again, thankfully for COVID, schools are online, or some schools are online, that I can get a job online. This will be the first time that I don't really have something just for myself. So it's going to be another adjusting year of learning how to really actually uproot my entire life for him. So
yeah,
yep.
It's a lot, but you'll find your way, and you'll find something that you love to do and try to make, a routine and like healthy habits. And then you'll kind of slide back into like where you're at, and you'll like find your place in your new city.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good.
Well, thank you so much, Emma, for coming on the podcast. It was so fun chatting with you. And I just love your guys' little friendship that you've had going on for years and years and years. So I'm glad we were all able to chat.
I know, this was amazing. Thank you so much.